You're now watching Boomsies on the Bet Rivers Network.
It's our Boomsies Olympic Spectacular.
Boomsies, 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 boomsies. Well, welcome to the show. Come on, it's time, let's go. So glad that you're here. Woo. We're gonna talk
Can't hear the
sports
theme song right now in my ears, so hopefully I'm on tune.
Here comes the king of cool.
Welcome to Boomsies. The Olympics are here. I'm Dan O'Toole. Not sure if you're like me, but I'm never counting down to the Olympics. But when they arrive, I am invested. There is no better reality television than the Olympics. And it's nonstop. Just putting it on, having it playing in the background, a moment will happen, and you'll just be transfixed. You'll be watching sports sometimes you didn't even know existed, and you'll be enthralled. And the person that is going to set us up for the Olympics is a person that we call a friend, we call a coworker, that you'll be inviting into your living room, that you've heard here on Boomsies before. She's our one stop for the Paris Olympics. She is our good friend, Julie Stewart-Binks. Banksy, you are on Canadian soil. Welcome home.
Thank you. I feel great being back in God's country. It just, the processes and the against, all the words you guys say in Canada, it's just coming right back to me now.
Is there a go-to as soon as you land on? Do you do the Timmy's visit as soon as you get here?
I don't know if I do it every day.
Ah, there you go. What's your Timmy's order?
Oh, of course, medium double. Just shoot that sugar and cream right into my veins, baby.
Okay, so that's a medium. You hold that cup up again because
I didn't know if I was allowed to show up.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Don't cover that up. Have you noticed the medium cups have gotten smaller?
I haven't noticed that, but my hand is quite large.
That looks like a small. That's the size of a previous small.
I have man hands, so it's really hard to tell by, that's a small. Wow. That's that's quite tiny. That's a travesty. Can't be having that happen.
Well, Binksy, it's shrinkflation. Everything you buy now is smaller than it used to be. Especially you get little protein bars and stuff. You're like, this used to be bigger.
This used to be bigger.
Yeah. Binksy, you should be a hand model and every product just looks tiny.
Well, there's so many things I can hold up right now, but
I need you to hold up a bowling ball so we can really get a size.
Well, I showed you before, the disco ball,
and that's
here.
That's a big disco ball.
This is a disco ball you would see when you're roller skating. That's how the size of my hands are. No, it's not.
Oh, it's Binksy, this got to be an ongoing bit. What can Binksy make look small?
Yep.
Okay, so I should explain what you're doing here. You are here because you're covering the Olympics for CBC. This is a huge deal.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. I've got my Olympic rings around my neck, which I'm not sure if I'm allowed to wear when we're on TV, but I will wear it until somebody says no. And yeah, I'm really excited. It's a huge opportunity. It's a lifelong dream to be. You've covered the Olympics before. I've covered them, and we covered them together.
That's right. In Russia.
I've gotten to go to all the hot spots. Sochi, Tokyo in a pandemic. Not Paris. So it's great though to be here in Canada doing it. And it's just the level of how, and I'm not just saying this as, well, maybe partly because I'm being employed by them, but I feel as though CBC does a very good job of covering the games and also telling stories of everyone. It's not just America. It's Canada, lots of other great stuff going on too. So I feel as though people get a little bit of everything when they're watching, and I will be updating people on kind of all the stuff going on. Cause you know how we're focused on the main things like Summer McIntosh, Summer of Summer, all that kind of stuff. But then there's, Canada's basketball team playing for the first time since 2000. And there's like artistic gymnastics for men for the first time since 2008. So it's like all these other really cool stories. That's just day one. I'm just testing myself from, all the studying I've done day one, and rugby sevens is also on day one, and skateboarding as well, just so you guys, and judo, and fencing. And so there's a lot of things I've had to learn. And so it'll be really neat to kind of tell the stories and then look for the ones that you don't know are going to happen, right? Like those neat moments where they kind of take your breath away of people, whether it's like, just people from different nations coming together when they're competing, or they might help each other out, or like something crazy happens. That's why we do it.
So Binksy, if I've got this correct, so you were with us with Fox in Russia, so you were doing updates and stuff like that from Russia. Then in Tokyo,
not updates. I was like hosting.
Yeah. Well, we were like, it was kind of like
what did we
summer.
Actually do? Really?
It was our summer camp. I don't even know what we were doing there, really.
I don't even know if any of that ever was seen by anybody else. But
and then in Tokyo, you were working for the IOC.
For Olympic broadcast service.
Olympic
I was doing
broadcasters.
baseball and softball, which are not sports in this Olympics, unfortunately, but they will be back for 2028 in LA.
So you were interviewing athletes, you were feet on the ground there, and now with the CBC, this is another new way to cover the Olympics for you. So you've really done all aspects of covering the Olympics. This would be the most time inclusive, most intense, I believe.
Yeah, like, yes and no. I mean, like, last Olympics was soups intense, right? Like, being on the ground in a pandemic in Tokyo was, and no one else was covering baseball and softball, but quite literally me and my camera operator, and like we had an intern who was local. That was like it, basically, the entire time. We did like 3 baseball games a day. Like, that's a lot of baseball. It was really hard on me mentally, physically. You're just like, you're in the Olympics. It's like your Olympics. And I'd say it was pretty messed up after that. But you know what? Like anything, it's a challenge that you go through and you grow and you learn a lot. And then this one is totally different too, because it's kind of like, I'm the new kid here. It's like I'm Lindsay Lohan in Mean Girls. Like, I'm maybe not like that example, but I'm like the new kid coming in, and everyone already works here. And some people have already, kind of come in for just the Olympics, but like they have the way they do stuff, and we're kind of creating something a bit new, because they've never done this job before at the Olympics. So it's a lot of like figuring out how it's going to go, and then, dancing on the day up, like when the spotlight comes on, go, right? And so I'm excited about that in that regard. I feel like everything I've done in my entire life has led up to being able to do this job, because it's, it's a lot of on your feet. It's a lot of like, something might be, it's kind of like breaking news of the Olympics while you're on, and kind of bringing people the latest information, and why should they care, right? Because people don't want to see faces, like, unless it's mine, on TV. They want to see action. So you have to be like, why are you on TV, for like a purpose? But I will say one other note, 2010, I did go to Vancouver. I was doing my master's in England and found like an $800 flight from London to Vancouver, if you can even imagine that, in CAD. Flew to Vancouver and stayed with my uncle. And then I just did like citizen journalism with my flip camera, and just like got like people on the street, like interviewed them about the Olympics, like got a photo of me and James Cebulski, like me holding his microphone. Someday maybe I could do that. And then just followed everyone around, like just got all the sights and sounds. So I did kind of cover Vancouver as well.
I love that. Vancouver was awesome. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience having the Olympic Games in your own country. And this should be noted, it should be stressed that, Binksy, you are an Olympic lover. You love the Olympics. So you talked about how it was bad for your mental health in Tokyo. I would say the same to be true whenever I've been at the Olympics in like London, Pyeongchang, and in Russia as well. You're there to do a dream job, to cover the Olympics, but it's taxing. You're away from your friends. You're away from your family. You're away from your own bed. You're away from your home. And it gets very emotional, and it's a very trying time mentally. So I think you being in studio on Canadian soil, it's not going to be as taxing that way. I
mean, I am staying in my childhood bedroom at my mom's
my
house.
Goodness, Binksy, look at this. It's going to be perfection.
No, like, I don't know if that's perfection or just like kind of like maybe more of like bringing up a lot of like unresolved trauma from your childhood, but like,
boy.
That's something for a different conversation. No, it's great. I mean, my mom's driving me to the subway. Like I'm back in, I don't know, high school again or something. Actually, the last time I ever worked in Canada last time I ever worked in Toronto before I moved to Winnipeg was at CBC as a shot lister for Hockey Night in Canada and a writer. And my mom would drive me to the subway. And I was like, I figured the other day, I was like, oh my gosh, that was in 2011. Like it's 2024. Nothing has changed about me coming back to Toronto. Like that's when I was starting to get the heebie-jeebies of like, I wish I was in a different city almost. Like I'm starting to feel like I'm back as a child, like an 18-year-old or something. My mom's like, honey, like knocking on
Packing
my door or
lunch.
Whatever. She wouldn't do that, but like she never did, really. But yeah, but it's great. It's nice not being in Tokyo and being like, here is like, I ate chocolate and drank coffee all day because we didn't really get like a whole lot of options for food because we were working. So like that's also a great way to go into an insane asylum. Yes. And also in Tokyo, like the breakfast options were like a salmon hot dog, like a tuna hamburger for breakfast. I remember being like, ooh.
Not my first choice for a breakfast meal.
Like salmon hot dog. I was like, I'm good. I'm just going to go. I don't know why.
Binksy, going back to your bedroom, is it like a bedroom out of a movie in which everything is exactly the same as when you were a child? Like, are there still posters on the wall? And
yes, it's time. I wish we were there now, right? Like you'd see I had to get rid of some stuff because there was like cards on the wall, cards from when I was in high school, like birthday cards that are still there. It's like, you're 17. Wow. We're so old. We're 17. We're so old. I'm like, that was 20 years ago. Like, it's just like, we got to get rid of some of this stuff. And some of it's like cute and whatever. And then some of it's like, oh, so cringe. But one thing was cool. Like I created this whole shrine of like my athletic career in one area. Like whatever. I guess that says a lot about me anyway. And it was all because I had come I tied in a running race with Felicia George, who is now, an Olympian in both summer and winter Olympics, and she's going to be working with us at CBC. And it was like I had come first, and I have this newspaper article like on the wall, and I didn't know she was going to be an Olympian someday. And that all stemmed from that, because I was like, wow, I was in the newspaper for running, and because I figure skated for like 11 years, and not once did I ever have my name in the paper. I was usually like I would usually be last in figure skating. Like the longest name would be at the bottom. So I was new, and I look at the results, I'd be like, okay, yeah, mom, we can go now. And so anyway, it's really kind of cool to come full circle and see like, okay, I'm working with Felicia George now. I mean, she's going to be in Paris, so I'm not in Paris. That's the one down point. But, you know, not everyone can go to Paris. That's just how it is.
Binksy, this is a revelation. You had wheels?
Oh yeah. I was a sprinter.
Wow. Okay. I don't think I've ever seen you run. So
nope, there'd be really no reason for you to see me run.
Next time we see each other,
it'd be a little different now doing sprinting, but I still got it though, because I had to run from some cicadas during a golf tournament recently. and I had, the spikes on my golf shoes. So that helped. It felt like I was back running again. So it was, I still got it. And I got the lungs too. So who knows? I mean, there's a woman competing in the Olympics who's 61 from Canada. Now, she's not
what
running.
Event?
She's doing dressage.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's horses.
The crip walking horses, as Snoop Dogg would say. It does look like it. He's pretty accurate. So,
Binksy, next time I see you, can we make this happen? Can we have a race against one another
Bet Rivers
and
race?
film it? Or just you and I race? I'd love to have a race with you.
It's like Donovan Bailey, Michael Johnson.
Oh yeah, I'm pulling up lame for sure. I'm pulling up lame.
Both of us are going to pull a hammy for sure if we have a race. Right out of the blocks, we're like, oh. But yeah, I'd love to race you, Dan. I'll beat the living crap out of you.
Okay, this is going to happen. Now, I want this to enter your brain in a good way. I hope you know the magnitude that the Olympics has in a lot of houses here in Canada. Like, I love just putting on the CBC and catching whatever's happening at that moment on the Olympics. And then the kids will wander into the room. They'll watch 5-10 minutes. Sometimes they'll get invested. It's a huge part of family memories, and you get to be a part of that, Binksy.
Well, I mean, now you just made it kind of feels weird.
It feels no. I want you to know the magnitude.
While I do this interview, just so that I feel like I'm, in the mood. I bought all these gold medals for my coworkers so that they like me.
I love
that. I don't know if it's going to work. But yeah, no, I do. I appreciate that. I totally understand the magnitude of like being someone that is on during this time. And also I want to be a catalyst for showing people maybe stories or events or things that happen that maybe they might not have seen had they not been like watching right then. Like I'm so into the human emotion and the human spirit of the Olympics. Like there's a lot of, we can like say, the Olympics hasn't always been like the easiest of things to sort of like sugarcoat. There's been issues in the past with them. Like you have to be able to acknowledge that. But like at the core is the athletes that have worked so hard to get to that point. And watching their stories, I mean, I've watched a whole bunch of features that are going to air on CBC, and like every single one of them, I'm in like tears. And I haven't even met these people before. And I'm like, oh my God, like I can't, like 2 minutes, maybe 90 seconds of a story. I'm like on the floor, just like there's still, it's such a commitment these people have had to give to get to this point. And it's like one second could change their entire, 1/10 of a second, 1/100th of a second can change their entire life. And it's just like, I'm just glad that it's normal, from the past two Olympics. I felt a lot of empathy toward those athletes in Tokyo and Beijing because they didn't really get what they had
Olympic
dreamed
experience.
Of, right?
Yeah.
Now they're getting it full on. Paris, like, woohoo, let's go.
You mentioned the emotion and how 1 second can make or break their Olympic dreams. One of my most vivid memories is being at Canada Olympic House, and I've described what this is. So in every Olympic city, Canada sets up a house where families, athletes, they can all hang out. So it's a great meeting point. You become friends with a lot of the family members of athletes. You talk about, what'd you guys do today? Oh, I went to this event. So on the night of the closing ceremonies in London did not go well for Canadian athletes. There was a lot of Olympic medal hopefuls that faltered, had bad events. So they showed a montage of this and I'll always remember it was to Coldplay's Colors. And it showed them faltering and them falling into their teammates' arms and stuff. I was a mess. Olympic team members were coming over and they're saying, it's okay. They got close to their dream. I'm like, but they worked so hard and then that happened. So those moments are what crush me, but also make me love the Olympics.
Dan, I love how Olympians are like consoling you. Like, it's okay, don't worry, Dan.
It's okay.
Gonna be
it's okay.
Yeah, those are so hard to watch when it's like you just think of the hours and hours and hours that they've put into this dedication, the giving up every single thing, and then like something happens and they don't get it, right? And like that's what I also think though is very relatable to every single person watching, right?
Yes.
Like, we can work forever on trying to get somewhere, get something, and maybe it doesn't happen. But that doesn't mean that something else doesn't happen. Like the fact that they're even there, like we always just surpass. And my doctor reminded it to me before I left. She was like, Julie, remember, like every single athlete going is extremely deserves the amount of like praise and accolades as anyone who wins. Like getting to the Olympics is an award in itself, right? Like, that's the craziest part is that we don't even really kind of say, hey, you made the Olympics. Like, here's your medal. Like, you should get one to make it to the Olympics.
You should get a participation medal for the Olympics. You should, because it's like it's just so big. But I think what's interesting this year, reading a lot of articles and talking to athletes, is it's not so much the emphasis on, as we have done in society, it's not so much on the outcome, but on the process, right? Like you want to just go out there and and enjoy kind of being able to have this experience and put everything out there, and like whatever happens, happens. If you win gold, if you win silver, if you win bronze, if you don't end up winning a medal, like just being able to have that experience. Because my dad was supposed to compete in 1980 Olympics for rowing, but Canada pulled out, which was heartbreaking for him. And they didn't find out. They like found out through like Telegram then, right? You'd be like, oh, guess we're not going to the Olympics. Wait. We weren't using telegrams in the 80s, Binksy.
He's not finding out on Twitter. Like,
he's finding it probably a phone call. They probably called him up.
Maybe it's just his buddy being like, we're not going to the Olympics. And they're like, oh, okay. Like they'd see it on the news. Like when guys used to get traded back in like the early 2000s in the NHL, they'd find out on TV. On TV. But he didn't compete in 1984, which is when his entire crew competed, and they came fifth. And they came back and he said that none of them wanted to talk about it because they were so upset. And they have never really talked about it since then. And I'm like, that's so messed up. Like they went to the Olympics and they came fifth, and they're all just like so upset at themselves for not doing better. It's like, I feel as though we need to change that kind of narrative around that, because that can mess people up for the rest of their lives. Like that's not real, right? Like if we judged each other based on like whatever jobs you applied for, or like however long you were in a job for, it's like, oh, we'd all be a mess. Yeah.
Was your dad in Olympic 8s?
They were trying to make it in the 8, yeah, and then it was, that was, the crew didn't make it, like the heavy, what do you call it, the heavy 8, yeah, that would be the one that ended up going in 1984.
By the way, I should, there's a footnote to my story of crying at Canada Olympic House. So after the video ends, someone taps me on the shoulder. They're like, Dan? I'm like, yeah. They said, is that did your makeup artist come here? And then we had this makeup artist who was from London. She was like 65. And I'm like, yeah, she's here. They're like, she might be dead. And I'm like, what? I turn around. She's collapsed on the floor because I guess she wasn't supposed to drink and everyone was bringing her drinks. So we thought she had died because she had hit her head so far. She was okay, but it snapped me out of the moment pretty quick. I'm like, oh boy, we might have a death on our hands. I hope Carol's doing okay.
Why did they come to you as the paramedic? Like, why didn't they just go?
Well, because I was one of the few people that knew who she was, and they kind of had seen her. We'd brought her in throughout the games, and they're like, oh yeah, she's from London. She wanted to come in and see her. And so they remembered that. And they're like, yeah, I think she's dead. It was a very jarring moment.
Then, no, that'll snap you out of it pretty
She's
quick.
Alive. Hey, Binksy, I did some reading on the Olympics, and I realized that the opening ceremony for the Olympics in Paris will be very different, as they're going to be outside and all the athletes are going to be on boats.
Yes, Stan, correct. Your research has done you well. They will be at the Parade of Nations down the Seine, and it's going to be a mixture of the boats and then also some musical acts and entertainment acts. And like, you know how when you see it in the past, it would be like the athletes walking, or beforehand, like all these different performers doing different stuff. Well, they will be throughout, like, whether they're on boats or whether they're on the side of the Seine or they're on the bridges. It's just going to be like a whole big, it's going to be crazy. Like,
yeah, because that'd be a lot of boats. That's like 10,000 athletes, isn't it? Well,
I think it's 185 boats, but then I saw someone say 100 boats, but I did hear 185 boats, which is a lot of boats. But it's the way that like it's been depicted art-wise, which obviously isn't real life yet, but it looks like, it just looks so incredible. Like, imagine just these boats and like all the nations and their flags, and everyone's just, it's a party. And it's Paris, so it looks so beautiful. And it will be at the time, it's CBC's coverage begins at 1 p.m. Eastern on CBC, streaming on CBC Gem, and it will also then, it will be going for a few hours. So if you time it, it'll be right when it's sort of like dusk, and then like the Eiffel Tower will be sparkling with the Olympic rings on it. Oh, just c'est magnifique.
Baguettes falling from the sky. Binksy, you've been very gracious with your time. You're in the middle of rehearsals right now. You guys are making everything run like a well-oiled machine. Before you go, give us the Canadian athletes or things you're most excited for that we should be watching for, if you've got a few.
Okay, well, I mean, like, everyone's got to be day one, day uno. As soon as we begin, it's Summer McIntosh. It's Summer of Summer. She's in the race of the century against Ariane Titmus and Katie Ledecky. Everyone knows Katie Ledecky, one of the most decorated Olympian swimmers of all time, and she's going up against her. And that's in the 400-meter freestyle. Going to be electric as well. So the pool is a big one for the Canadians. They've done very well, especially the women in the past. Canada basketball, that's also on day one against Greece. And they've done well leading up to what's going on. It's been since I said 2000 since they played. And like, I think they could give USA's look a little shaky recently.
Yeah, Canada's second favorite in these Olympics in basketball.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be like really exciting to watch. And then, I mean, there's so many other, obviously, Andre De Grasse is one of the most decorated. He's the most decorated men's athlete in Canadian history. So he's going to try to be able to get back on the podium again for his third Olympics, the 4x100 as well. I mean, like the track, gymnastics as well. You look at hammer throw. There's so many every single day. Judo as well. There's a lot of different Canadians that are in judo that could win. There's a lot of different potential medal hopefuls. You just don't want to like put too much emphasis on if someone should win a medal or not, right? Because then it's like, well, what if they don't? Then it's, But there's a lot of good. Oh, and Damian Warner, of course, who won the decathlon in the last Olympics, trying to defend his title. The women's 8 rowing, they're looking to defend their title as well. So there's a couple of interesting things like that. Cycling, I'm not going to go through I have all my.
No, you don't have to go through it all. You're good.
No, but we got archery as well. There's some good. I got all my sports just in case I need to know, the details on basketball, like. Hopefully I know that one, but like canoe, kayak, sprint, right? These aren't things I normally talk about. So I have some cards here.
Well, yeah, there's so many events. There's so many athletes. There's no way you can possibly know about every single athlete and every.
Right. But so, breaking as well. That's the big one. That's the new one.
That is.
Breakdancing, but breaking is what we call it. So do not say breakdancing.
Skateboarding is new this year too.
Well, it was there in 2000, but it is going to be here again. And there's a 14-year-old. You're going to have to get me on this Faye. Just cut this part out. Faye Dunaway is going to be competing in that. Faye DeFazio Ebert. Okay.
There you
maybe
go.
Maybe not Ebert, but Ebert. Faye DeFazio Ebert.
14-year-old. And we've got a 61-year-old. Binksy, you're awesome. Thanks for taking all this time with us. We can't wait to watch you on the CBC. Every time you're going to be on, I'm like, there's Binksy. I'll be sending pictures. No, I'm going to be sending a lot of selfies with me next to the TV with you on it and sending them to you. So get ready for those.
No, Dan, like, please take a photo of me every time I'm on TV, okay? Like, that's your responsibility as my friend. And there's a lot of Bet Rivers. Just so everyone knows, Bet Rivers is also going to be is competing in the Olympics.
That's right. Our new commercial run that we spent a week shooting those. Luckily, we shot a lot of commercials. There's going to be a lot of them, but there's going to be different ones. So hopefully
get
you
ready
don't
for
get
the
tired.
Bet Rivers Olympics.
Yeah. Banksy, make us proud. Most importantly, have fun.
Right. It's all about having fun.
Banksy, what a gem. How about the fact that her dad was almost on the Olympic team? That's pretty cool. I didn't want to get into the odds for the Olympic Games with her. I didn't want to ruffle any feathers with her with the CBC, so I can give you those now. I got this question a lot when I played in the Stomp the Stigma golf tournament Monday at the Summit Golf and Country Club, a beautiful Stanley Thompson design. It's my favorite charity event that I play in every year. Just a great cause, and it's all about suicide awareness. Man, my group kept asking me, said, can you bet on the Olympics? Can you wager on the Olympics? Because we've got a massive ad buy for Bet Rivers. And I said, good question. And you can. Two of the big ones are over-under for medals for Canada. In Tokyo, we won 24. The over-under for the Paris Olympics is 22.5. I would take the over on that. And the over-under on golds for Canada is 5.5. Let's be positive. Let's take the over on that one. But the Stomp the Stigma, the biggest thing that the message that was put across was by Ian Leggett, former PGA player. He was one of the people that spearheaded the Stomp the Stigma event. He gets up and speaks every year. He lives in Florida now. He flies back for this event. That's how much it means to him. Rod Black's always the MC. But he said, if you leave here with one thing, let it be this. And that is find someone to talk to. Have that one person. And stress this to your kids. Have that one person that if they're ever in trouble, if their mind is racing, have that one person they can call. It doesn't need to be a parent. And most times it wouldn't be a parent because they don't want to confide in them. They'd be embarrassed or something. But say, I totally get that. But have a one friend, family member, cousin, neighbor, someone. And that goes for adults too. Have that one person you can rely on that if everything is breaking down, you can pick up the phone and call them. And I'm like, that's a great message. Ian Leggett, true champion for mental health that initiatives that actually do something and give people a place to talk and find the right environments for people who will feel comfortable talking. They know you don't want to go to the family doctor and sit there in a clinical room and talk to them. So they're trying to find new spaces, and the dialogue is open, saying, well, what can we do to make it inviting where kids are going to say, okay, I trust you guys. I can sit in this space. So Stomp the Stigma, spectacular event, and proud to be a part of that. I wanted to give you that message before we got out of here. Enjoy the Olympics. Enjoy what's left of our summer. We're almost into August, which is terrifying. And make sure you hug someone. Make sure you're nice. It doesn't cost you anything.
Welcome to Boomsies with Dan O'Toole. Live from Orono in the heart of Ontario. Oh, baby, Boomsies.